Get this. So I'm 54 years old at this time, and I put on a performance plan for using the word yippee in an email. Mind you, I was doing the job and well, but I also didn't fit the mold. And that moment is exactly when that fire lit underneath my butt and put me on the mission to dismantle the whole idea of ageism in the workplace, especially in corporate, and to also break down the lie of overqualified, to show you also how to trade in experience for relevance, visibility, and unapologetic value. So I know this playbook all too well. In this episode, I'm going to dismantle those 3 biggest myths that are keeping you, your brilliance, and your leadership on the sideline. Listen in.
The idea of job security is outdated as a landline. If you haven't been in a search for a while, it's probable you will at some point, by choice or not. Most executives admit to staying way too long or sense what's coming and justify staying anyway. There's another reason. The faulty belief that navigating to what's next will inevitably be worse and has to suck. Screw that. Lauren Greif has spent a lifetime in corporate and executive search, calling bullshit on stale career advice that most still use. This is Career Blast in a Half, the career podcast for executives ready to cut past outdated career advice to fuel your outcomes now. So let's go.
I don't know if you guys know this, but at 54, I was put on a performance plan for using the word yippee in an email at one of the world's most respected executive search firms. I mean, seriously, what is so egregious about yippee? But I was told it was unprofessional. And all that was said despite any of the performance and any of the relationships that I built. But of course, I knew there was more to it than that. Today's job market isn't broken because it doesn't work. It's broken because it works exactly the way that it was designed to make talented people over 40, over 45, or over 50 who don't fit into a box feel unwanted and turn them into permission seekers and needing those gatekeepers to beg and land their next job. That's what inspired my mission to end career victimization in order to elevate, accelerate, and celebrate one executive over 40 at a time. And that's what I get to do today. This is not a penalty. This is a privilege to be able to teach folks like you how to shift their narrative and get empowered so they are able to use both their experience and relevance as leverage in today's market. And it works. It really does. We want you to be able to build that trust and influence and authority so you're never apologizing for your age. Because what I want to say about ageism is it is discrimination, and it's also strategic stupidity. And here's why it's bogus, okay? Let me rant. Who does this? Who takes the most experienced leaders that offer timeless skills and value, expert problem solving, keen communication, and a hand raised to engage and says, sorry, we don't want you? That is ridiculous. And so be mindful. Smart decision makers recognize that you have a role. You have an important role and they need you, but they need you to make sure that you are meeting them where they are. And I'm going to give you some hints at that. Things are changing, maybe not fast enough, and maybe you can't see it just yet. But let me just throw out this statistic because it's really important. By 2030, nearly 12% of the entire workforce is expected to be 75 and older. So in less than 5 years, and accommodations are going to be made for all of us to upskill, for us to have more flexibility in how we address day-to-day work life. And so just know, don't be late to this game. Build your relevance now. And just because they're buying into ageism doesn't mean you have to take it. The first thing I want you to do is stop apologizing, right? Stop apologizing. And what that means more specifically is unpopular. Do not hide your graduation dates. You can do that if you need to on resumes, and I understand why if you're going through the applicant tracking system, which I'm not a fan of. But if you are on LinkedIn, and hell yeah, you should be, you want to keep those graduation dates there. Here's why. The first thing is the people that are looking at your LinkedIn profile, they're not dumbasses. They can figure that out. They could do the math. They could approximate how old or how not old you are, however you want to spin it. The other reason why you don't want to hide those graduation dates is because it has a negative impact on the algorithm. In other words, LinkedIn don't like it. And what that means is that when you have a specific end date to your MBA or any other date that you list there in your education, if it doesn't have an end date, it will show up in the algorithm as an incompletion. So it makes it look like even though you're saying that you have the MBA, it could cause suspect, and it also will show up as an incompletion if it is required or preferred. The second thing I need you to kind of make peace with is you're gonna hear overqualified. People think that it is valid, and it's not. But here's what it really means. Okay. So let's break this down. Overqualified is a placeholder, a mask for all the other fears that companies have. And here they are. Number one, we think you're too expensive. Number two, we think that you don't have the tech chops. Your skills are rusty. And number three, most common, we think that you're not going to be challenged, or you're not going to have enough runway with our company so that you're going to stay. And then we'll have to go back and rehire this position all over again. In other words, you're a flight risk. So what I want you to understand is that this is the place where you really need to get into the psychology of how people hire. Hiring managers do not read resumes. They look for how you solve problems. So problems will trump qualifications. And the only way that they're going to know about those problems ahead of time is if you lean into your unfair advantages. So I'm going to tell you what an unfair advantage is. And I'm going to give you an example, or maybe one or two, that can really help you position this. Yeah, you can kind of call it a value proposition, but I think that these are stronger, right? An unfair advantage is something that you've done that you can really, really demonstrate how you solve this problem with a measurable impact, an actual problem. And so instead of saying, I turn around, underperforming teams, I want you to speak specifically and say something like, reduced customer churn from 23% to 8% in manufacturing, software as a service or SaaS during an economic downturn. Using these unfair advantages, and you should have about 3 or 5 of them, what does it do? It moves you away from the commodity trap. The commodity trap is when you use more ambiguous or generic ways of saying things like, oh, I led a team, or I drove growth, or, anything that pretty much anybody else can say. So when you are using specific metrics, I'll give you another one, right? Is now you're speaking to them in the language of business. Here's another one. Let me just grab this. Oh, hold on one second. Let me just pull this up. Okay, here's another one. Manage financial planning and budget processing. Blah. Let's do it like this as an unfair advantage. Eliminated 2.3 million in annual waste by implementing zero-based budgeting at a 500-person manufacturing company, turning a negative 4% margin into a plus 7% profitability. Do you hear how that's different? It's so different because it's speaking their language. It's speaking their business language. And they love that because when you know your business, you're establishing trust. And when you know your business, it's relevant because that's where that trust transfer happens. They don't have to guess. You're serving that up to them and it's validated with that number. I am blowing the lid off of our best kept secret, our 30-day blast program. Yeah, you heard it. 30 days. We have seen so much success for this program that past clients have landed in that 30 days and increased their compensation 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, over 100%. Now, not everybody lands and earns that much in 30 days, but my point is it prepares you. And in 30 days, if you're not out of there with a changed mindset and changed clear and simple ways to be able to navigate the market this year, then we'll gladly refund your misery and you can go back to applying now. Check out the link below for the next 30-day blast, and we would love to have you there because we live for your success, and that's what's really important. See you then. Use your unfair advantages so that that idea that you are overqualified starts to erode. The next thing that people worry about is your tech skills. I mean, I'm just going to say it, you got to get playful with AI. You got to get it. It's not going away, right? So overqualified is your skills aren't sharp, and you can do something about that. I mean, you can really do something about that. LinkedIn Learning, boatloads of free learning, so many ways to do this. There's no excuse. You have to. It's a responsibility if you are leading. Everybody, every professional needs to upskill. And I'm not just talking in the business world. We're all always learning. And the last one, in terms of what overqualified means, is that you don't want to stay. And what I want to say is you get to decide how long and when you want to stay. But now you also have to let them know that too, because they're not mind readers. Talk about the future of the company and how exciting it is that they are doing X, Y, and Z. You want to be there for it. You want to lead for it. Don't just look at the job at hand. Look at the future of the company so that you are there to map with them. Tell them that you're excited about it and that you want to be a part of it so that you can be in the organization, not on the outside of the organization, thinking that they did you some kind of favor. Really want to stress so much so this idea of relevance, right? That's the third thing. And I'm going to tell you a story in a minute, but experience and relevance, just so you know, they're not the same. They're completely different. Experience will tell me what I did, what happened. History, man, it's over. It's done. And if you keep leading in with all this experience, you're basically digging your own grave because they're going to think that that experience means you're done. I want you to refocus all of that effort into how are you relevant? And part of being relevant is being visible. Because if I can't find you, sorry, harsh, but you might be dead to me. Not because you're gone, because I think you're gone, because you're not top of mind. And so I want you to make sure that you are where the activity is. And the activity is in today's landscape on LinkedIn. It's not 1998. It's not just like keep your head down and update your resume. Here's a perfect story for this. I'm so excited to share this with you. I've protected his name because I don't want to reveal my real client's name. We'll just call him Bill, right? This guy comes in. This is like right around Thanksgiving time, and he's in his mid-50s, and he recently got laid off. And he literally, like on Zoom, hands up in the air. He's like, who's going to hire me? I'm male, pale, and stale. I knew he was hireable. He had all the right things. He had smart, he had humor, he had sadness. But what he did was not default back into that old archaic idea that he had to play the polishing up of the resume and just like playing it around with a million keywords. He got out from hiding behind those job boards and he started getting busy and activating his network, the network that had atrophied, and started also embracing some fun commenting on LinkedIn. He started sharing his ideas, sharing some of his unfair advantages. He started connecting with some new people. And guess what? One smart comment caught a CEO's eye. And what happened? It led to a job offer. But here's the funny part. On his first day, they asked him to officially apply to the role that he was already in. So this is a perfect example of how he became relevant, and the action, it beat all the wishing and wanting, because you can't have it both ways. You can't have all the desire without any of the action. So I want you to move away from the things that aren't working, the months of wasted applying and underpricing yourself and missing out on the very hand that's going to feed you, not just for this job search, for the next, for the next, for the next, for the next. And I want you to also embrace the ROI of owning your story and your narrative, because I can promise you it will lead to much, much higher turnover in a good way for your referrals. You will earn those referrals if you know what you're talking about, instead of just saying, do you have a job? And you want those referrals because everybody knows the hidden job market is where 95% of all the roles at this older level exist. They're not coming through job boards. This is where the best jobs are. You want more at-bats with interviews. You want better cultural fit, and you want a faster time to be hired. So don't make LinkedIn and all the things that come with it optional. It's not. It's your case study. It's everything that anybody could want. Every day that you wait, the compensation conversation starts getting lower and lower and lower, and you're more exhausted playing around the same game. So you heard it here, right? Ageism, yeah, it exists, but it's strategic stupidity. So I hope that you follow these, and I hope that you also reach out to me on LinkedIn so that you know I am here with and for you at every step. Don't let anybody tell you that your age is a reason why. Get to the key points that we talked about today. I'll just repeat them one more time. Stop hiding your graduation date. Oh my goodness. You're going to figure it out anyway. Number 2, please, by all means, understand what the masks for overqualified entail, right? Their fear doesn't have to be yours. And then the third thing is really understand and embrace the difference between experience and relevance, and lean into your relevance. Thank you so much for listening. Oh my goodness. I'm so happy to have the opportunity to be in your ears and to share this. If you like this episode, you know what I'm going to ask you. Please go ahead, write an Apple Podcast review, find me on LinkedIn, ask me any questions, and sending you a big fat thank you and hug. All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining today. We appreciate your listening ears. Big time. We ask this: use these tools, not tomorrow, right now, and share them by spreading the love, leaving us a rating and subscribe so you don't miss the next career blast in a half. Most of all, thank you for you.